Hello, Mark.
Hello, Eric.
We're going to talk about Jesus as Son of God today. Um, in Mark chapter 1, verse 1, we're going through Mark here together at our church. And so it's been on my mind a lot. And so as we've just camped out and I've thought about these conversations on Jesus, this has been a sentence that has been in my head a lot. First sentence of Mark: the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And Mark will, for 16 chapters through his book, tell us what that means to him. This good news of Jesus, who we've been talking about, what it means for him to be the Christ, which we've talked about in our last couple conversations. And today we're going to kind of hone in on what it means for him to be Son of God.
Yeah, not only did he come in human form as, you could say, a son of man, he called himself a son of man, which was his human portion, but he was the Son of God as well, and God recognized him as such, and he was crucified and raised in glory as the Son of God.
Yeah, and Mark starts off at the very beginning with like that acknowledgement.
Yes.
God acknowledging Jesus as his son. As Jesus is baptized, he's coming up out of the water, and the heavens are tore open, and the Spirit descends on him like a dove, and a voice comes from heaven and says, "You are my beloved son. With you I'm well pleased."
What a great declaration.
Mark doesn't stop there. Mark moves quickly to somebody else who acknowledges, 12 sentences later. There's not a lot in between this. Right between God proclaiming or acknowledging Jesus as his son, there's this unclean spirit that Jesus encounters. And he says, what have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know you are the Holy One of God. So there's a couple things I want us to notice. At the very beginning, Mark is talking about these unclean spirits, these unclean forces that motivate people to do wrong things, things that aren't good for themselves.
Yeah. So this unclean spirit is working within a human being, and Jesus is about to cast it out or remove it from the person to heal him.
Yeah, I think they recognize that their time is coming to a close, and that the one who has the power to do something about it, the one who has the power to defeat them and ultimately destroy them, he has come. And their question is like, is that time now? And the first assault is coming. Jesus is casting out the unclean demons. He is offering healing. He is launching his like first assault against the kingdom of darkness.
The beginning of the end.
Yes. So they recognize that. They acknowledge that he is the Holy One of God. They don't call him Son of God right here at the beginning of Mark, but they do later. In chapter 3, there's this crowd that's swelled around Jesus. Many come to be healed. Many come who are diseased. And it says this in verse 11: whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." And so they acknowledge Jesus as the Son of God. And so there's not another really acknowledgement of that through Mark until the end. We'll get there. But the question becomes like who else is going to acknowledge? You have the ruler of heaven and earth, and you have the things who are in opposition to him acknowledging Jesus as Son of God, will humans, will we,
Yes.
will we see that? Will we acknowledge that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, well, a thought that came to me as you were showing the demons, spirits acknowledging Jesus as Son of God is that you can acknowledge Jesus as the Son of God without yielding yourself, giving yourself to Him in obedience.
Yeah,
So,
you can't.
but it's interesting. They testified that He was the Son of God there, and they feared Him.
It makes me think of a passage in 1 Corinthians. No one can say Jesus is Lord except in the Holy Spirit. And no one speaking in the Spirit of God ever says Jesus is accursed.
That seems to be more than an acknowledgement, doesn't it? I mean, is this kind of you're proclaiming Jesus as your Lord, maybe through the Holy Spirit? But the demons said, "You're the Son of God." They did bow down and in fear, but they had to have. I mean, they had to have still been lost. And so, but they had knowledge probably long before Jesus even came to the earth
Yeah. Yeah.
of Jesus.
And acknowledging doesn't, it doesn't seem like it in any way like redeems or saves or provides salvation for the unclean spirits or God. You know, like God doesn't. So acknowledgement doesn't. I don't think offer what living as like Jesus, Son of God offers. And we'll get there too of like what that means to like live as Jesus or not just acknowledge it, but like live it to be true that Jesus is Son of God.
Yes.
We'll talk about it as we move through Mark.
Seeing Him before you as the Lord, the Son of God, as what you're going to be, what you're referring to.
Yeah, and living as He is God, that He is what you worship. Jesus becomes your God. That I think that is beyond just acknowledging He is maybe, you know, or like probably, or like, okay, He is Son of God, but no, like I'm not just going to say it and acknowledge it, but He is going to become my God.
Right. Yeah.
And that's ultimately where my spoiler. We're spoiling it now.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where no, it's okay. That's where it takes us.
Like when James talks about, you know, you say you have faith, good for you, but show me your faith by what you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. It has to cause us to worship Jesus as God. That He is the thing that our minds are always drifting towards. You know, it is default mode when we have downtime. You know, or like it's what our minds goes to. It's. I think most people have something that their mind reverts to.
Yeah.
At most points throughout the day, and
Right.
like, what is it? What is it?
So that's life changing when you not only believe that there is a God, believe that there's a Son of God, but He is your
He becomes
Lord,
your God.
your Lord, your God.
Yes. He always has been God, but He becomes your God. Yeah. It's so like, yeah. Through Mark, you know, Jesus is kind of like hinting at that. He never comes out and says, like he does in John, like, I and the Father are one. But he does kind of hint at it, and it seems like that's really at, you know, some of the serious issue the religious authorities are taking with him is that he's he's talking about himself in that way, without in the most humble way to talk about it, in a way that probably shouldn't have even disturbed them to the level that it did, unless it was true. It kind of starts with, in chapter 11, Jesus is being welcomed in as Hosanna. Save us now, save us, God. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Jesus is drawing near to Jerusalem. He tells his disciples to go and find this colt that's tied up. No one's ever been set on it. Untie it and bring it to him. And if anybody asks why you're doing this, say the Lord has need of it. And so I think there's at least two possibilities that the disciples could have in their heads. Jesus is saying, like, the Lord, like God the Father has need of it, or that Jesus as their Lord has need of it. And Jesus is going to push that kind of further as we get into chapter 12. The story develops, and one of the scribes comes up and asks which commandment is most important of all. And Jesus says the most important is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." And he goes on to say, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind." And the second is this, to love your neighbor as yourself. There's no other commandment greater than these. So he says, right off the bat, the most important, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then he turns right around a few sentences later in Mark and says, "And as Jesus taught in the temple, he said, so how can the scribes say that the Christ is the son of David? David himself in the Holy Scripture declared, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet.' David himself calls him Lord. So how is he his son?" And it's so brilliant for him to say, "Yes, you're right. We agree. The Lord is one." So who's the other Lord that David is referring to? And it is Jesus.
Yes.
He and the Father are one. He is God that we should worship. And so, the final person to acknowledge this in Mark is the centurion. And he comes to acknowledge this. I can't speak as to whether or not he commits to it, or like he allows Jesus to become God to him. I don't know, but he acknowledges it.
I just always wondered, why would he use that terminology? And I don't know if he'd heard about Jesus before, or he had been listening to what was said while Jesus was on the cross, or that seems like a real acknowledgement or belief on the part of the centurion.
One of the things I like about Mark is that it distills some things out. And I say that because it highlights more, I think, of like what is the main picture to have. Because of all the different qualifiers Mark could have said about like the earthquake and the dead raising, and like he does say, and it doesn't even say whether like the centurion was in eyesight of seeing this temple curtain, but the temple curtain is torn. It does give that detail. But other than that, the only thing that it really talks about the centurion seeing is Christ crucified. Um, the centurion stands facing him, and when he sees that he breathed his last in this way, he says, "Truly, this man was the Son of God."
Hmm.
He doesn't need to give us those other details to show how someone can come to proclaim Jesus as the Son of God.
Yes.
And it's by standing facing him as he dies and breathes his last. that is how you move from the camp of someone who mocks Jesus as God to someone who at least acknowledges it.
Yes. Yes.
It's hard for me to know how good I'm doing at like worshiping Jesus as God. I'm trying to get better and better. I'm trying to become more of that. The person who sees Jesus as the man of heaven, and worship him as such, and bear his image. You know what I mean? Like but I have hard enough time trying to figure myself out.
Yeah. And if we were like the centurion, and like all others who can be like the centurion, we must face Christ like he did. We must really look at the Son of God. And then we can say, yes, there is a Son of God. Yeah. And it is Jesus Christ, my Lord.
Mm-hmm. My Lord and my God.
And my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about what that does for us. Let's just go ahead and talk about that. What I think that is, I think that is kind of what Jesus came to do when it talks about, like because of our sin, that he came to destroy. Not just like thinking about this idea of sin as bigger than just doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Mark forces us to see what the scribes and the Pharisees and the religious leaders are doing, what Judas is doing, what Pilate is doing, is more than just like breaking a commandment. You know, like it's more than just breaking a rule.
Yeah.
It is giving themselves to something powerful and evil.
Yes. The domination of the Satan and the domination of sin over mankind. It's a force, like you said, a force of evil.
It is. Yes. It is a power that like it's the prince of the power of the air. You know, that's how Paul writes about it. But yeah, I mean, it is like this influence that motivates us to do things that cause us to look less like a human and more like an animal, a wild beast. You know, just out of control. Giving no good consideration to like other people or
not seeming like a human with a spirit at all.
And that is like it talks about, it connects the ideas of like especially the scribes and the Pharisees and like their kangaroo court. You know, it's a sham. The trial's a sham. It's not like there's any hope of justice. But it talks about like the false witness, false testimony, and how it is like, it is commands, it is instruction God has given us that is being broken, but it's bigger than that. They are in subjection to something powerful, that is motivating this behavior.
Yes.
And that's what Jesus came to deal with and to dethrone within us, to replace as the thing we worship, whatever that idol is that we worship. Most things aren't bad until you worship them, until they become the thing that is your default, is what you are reverting to all day long, is controlling you in some sense.
Yeah. It's enslaving you, I would say.
Yeah. Jesus came to replace that and help us experience and live life in a way that opens up an entirely different mode of being. It's a different world that you're being offered to live in.
Yeah. You're freed. You're unchained to be like your God.
It is the ultimate freedom. It's not freedom to just do whatever you want. Like that. That's not freedom. Yeah. Then you're in subjection to just like your whatever desire is overcoming you in the moment.
Right. Yeah.
It's bigger than that.
Yes.
It's something more powerful than that.
Yes. It is power. It is a spiritual power of love and grace, mercy. It's the power of opening up and caring for others. It's compassion. It's seeking what is good and just and right, and having that as your abundance, as your light and your life.
I think that's it. I think that is what it means for Jesus to be your God. When he becomes the thing you worship.
Yes. You have Jesus Christ, and he is your God, and it overcomes all of the evil and the difficulties that have been laid out in darkness in this world. It's really the answer to living.
And even the darkness in the world, like the darkness that Rome is colluding with, but also the darkness that Israel's colluding with. Like this darkness of like devout, pious orientation towards God. But if it's not God that looks like Christ crucified, it is gonna cause disaster. It has to be a God that looks like Christ. That's what.
Right. Yeah. And Jesus came to reveal that to us. He handed over that perspective, that way of life. That was his purpose for coming. And of course the opportunity that comes with that to joining him.
How beautiful, like how beautiful.